Good morning, everyone. I'm Shotade Olusegun. In today's video, I'm going to tell a story. Where the title of today's video is The Story of Wisdom, Knowledge, and Understanding in Relation to Universe. Well, I know that you might want to ask that how are wisdom, knowledge, and understanding related to universe? You're going to get that shortly because I'm going to actually blow your mind in this particular video. Well, in this video, you're going to get to know the rudiment and even get to know the fabric of the universe as it is genuinely is. So basically, this video, I'm going to merge physics to the art of storytelling, and then we'll be able to get even the hierarchical order of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. So basically, we're going to dive deep into this. Now I'm going to use this time energy wave model to illustrate the visual representation of what I'm going to tell in the story. So now, if I ask you just one question, that what hierarchical order, in what hierarchical order can we have wisdom, knowledge, and understanding? I know you might be so confused as to how to arrange them, but we're going to do justice to that in this video. And another thing I want you to know, what actually, brings about this story is for the fact that I remember that one time I posted something on Quora in relation to my research publication, and I faced huge criticism. You understand? Then I remember what Einstein said. Einstein said that advanced knowledge will always be criticized by mediocre or mediocrity, whatever it is. So basically, I got to understand that there is a big gap between a mediocre and the advanced order of knowledge. We usually have that wide gap, and the reason being that I'll tell you what the reason is, and I want you to pay attention to it. Pay rapt attention to it. The reason is that understanding is being encapsulated by knowledge per dimensions. Understanding is being encapsulated per dimensions. So you will get to know this truth very soon. Okay? So the story I want to talk about, I'm just going to give you the brief summary of that story. Because at a point in time, let me say wisdom and knowledge, they are what? They are at the same level in the order of superiority. Wisdom and understanding, they are at par in order of superiority. So time has nature of wisdom, then energy has nature of understanding. So we're going to dive deep into this. Now, before I give you the visual representation of the story I want to tell, now let's dive into the story right here. Let's dive into the story. Well, I've decided to write this short story, and I want you to have the view of the story. That's why I've written it like this. Now, the story of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Please, I want you to follow me closely on this. At initial point, time and energy were at the same level of superiority. Energy occupies the level by its nature of infinity. For time is unable to discern the end point of energy, Meanwhile, time is at the level by the virtue of its instancy, for energy is unable to fathom the existence of time. However, time is an epitome of wisdom, but energy is a symbol of understanding. Energy understands its environment by permeating the entirety of the space. But time challenges the worth of energy's understanding without him being inclusive. Energy agreed to be swallowed by time in order to understand the inner workings of time. Having been swallowed by time, energy understood its emergent power to suspend time by electromagnetic field at the beginning of time. But energy fails to understand that time has emergent power of gravitational field to suspend energy, at the end of time. Believing that it had known the mystery of time, energy erupted from the singularity of the beginning of time and traveled inversely to time. Energy suspends time around arbitrary point at the crest of time energy wave, while it travels outside the time energy wave constraint to live as infinite entity again. While celebrating as a superior being to time, time encapsulates energy, as finite formation of antimatter at the instant phase of the present, and flips it towards the end of time as a rare suspension to the kingdom. Well, now this story that I've just shared with you is a profound one. Now, when you go according to how the story is being explained, or according to how the story is being told, you will understand that time you will understand that wisdom and energy, at a point in time, they were at par in the order of superiority. Now, energy by its nature has to be in that cadre to understand everything in the universe. Then time by its own nature, it has wisdom to deal with things. So now basically, if we're to now try to define what wisdom is, what knowledge is, and what understanding is, we might say that wisdom is, the way we can define wisdom in this context is to say that the manipulation of wisdom on energy. So basically, time is creative. That is, time can invent things and make new things to come into existence. That is the power that time has. Then energy has the mechanism. It has a kind of intuition to understand be it technical system or mechanical system. And so what we can call knowledge in this context is, knowledge is more or less like a foundation, because for energy to understand, for energy to have a kind of purposeful direction, energy must have a basic knowledge. And by having knowledge of what it wants to achieve, then that will make energy to have a purposeful direction, because it is possible for one to actually go in a direction without knowing what he or she might want to, achieve by following that direction. And it's possible for you to follow a direction while you know what you want to achieve in that direction. So now let's have visual representation of this story. But before we dive deep into this visual representation, I want to tell you that the lesson that you can learn from this story is that you don't have to be greedy. Because when you have understanding of something, you might think that you have known everything. So in real fact, it might just be that you only get to know a tiny fraction of what is supposed to be known. So the story that I'm telling you right now, I want us to know the reason we have that kind of divergence between the mediocre and the advanced order of knowledge. And the reason we usually have misunderstanding, the reason we usually have disagreement, the reason we usually have disputes in the world, that is what we want to actually dive into today. So now, the lesson is, if you know something, don't quickly jump. Don't be greedy. So because energy was being swallowed by time, and energy was able to get to the core of time's stomach, energy was able to get to the bottom of time's stomach, and energy realized that it could actually suspend time, because time has a nature when interacting with energy, which is gravitational field, and that gravitational field is not operational at the core of time's stomach. It's operational at a certain suspended point. And because the electromagnetic field of energy, while in relativistic scaling to time, could actually reside at the bottom, at the core of that time stomach, so time jumped into conclusion that yes, he had realized what he could use to overpower time. You understand? And what energy did is what has made time to be a visible entity, though we might not actually see time in real sense. And the reason we don't usually see time, even though energy has made time to be suspended around 0 point, because the only thing that makes time to be invisible is for time to travel through the 0 point. But now energy has made time to be suspended around the 0 point, and as a result of that, we have the non-zero energy level, which is what we have in the vacuum. You understand? And now what energy did is actually what made us to have divisions or to have hierarchical order. And the hierarchical order that we have in the universe is what is known as dimensions. So now the understanding that we have is being wrapped up by the knowledge within a particular dimension. And for you to have a complete knowledge of even the dimension that you are domiciled in, you will have to go to higher dimension. And by transiting into higher dimension, that is when you can get a full picture. So if you don't understand what I'm trying to say, what I'm saying is this. Just like I have said in one of my videos, if you have an object of 2D and you as a 3D object, if you should tell that object of 2D to jump up, the object will not be able to do that. It is not that it is not possible for the object to jump, but the understanding of the object is actually limited by the dimension. So the only thing that could make the object to jump is if you lift the object, and the object will still be able to see things the way they are, even in the 2D. You understand? So basically, like what I showed in one of my videos that I posted, that if you have an ant on a plane of paper and that paper is placed on the ground, the ant, even if the ant crosses the boundary, the ant will not be able to experience the other side of the paper unless that paper is being lifted up by a 3D object, so that the ant can actually travel to other side. And that is when the ant can actually experience the fullness of the 2D. So same thing is applicable to us. For instance, an object in 3D world, when you observe, for instance, a bridge, you can only see the perspective that is open to you. You can only see one side of the bridge. Now we have used our imagination and intuition to develop symmetries. And what we do by symmetries is to say that the other side that we're unable to access is the same thing as this side that we're able to see. That is what we usually do. But the real fact is the other side might not be the same thing as the side that we could see. You understand? And that is why we need to flip. So what I basically do is that I usually flip to get the information of both sides. So now I realize anytime I faced any kind of criticism, what I endeavor to do is that I try to see how I can explain the information that I have in such a way that the mediocres can understand what I'm trying to say. Because you really have to come down to their level. What I'm trying to say is this: if a child of 5 years old, if that child gets sober, even to the point that the child was crying based on the fact that she lost a toy, you as a grown-up person might not be able to relate well with the child based on the fact that you are at higher level, and so you might look at that situation based on your own perspective. And if you do that, then you will not be able to relate well, to solve the problem, to comfort that child, because to you it might just be a mere toy that you can even buy another one for the child. So you might be curious or surprised or even be angry or infuriated based on the fact that the child was crying on a mere toy. You understand? But if you can actually get to the level of that child, you can get yourself back to as when you were at the age of the child, and then try to figure out how the toy would, be to you at that point in time. You know that the toy will be so important to you because it is something that you play with often and often. So the value that the toy has is more important at that level than the level you are as a grown-up person. And that is why you will have to get a medium, something that you can use to relate. Because the challenge that the most people that have gone far and wide in their quest for knowledge, the challenge they usually face is this challenge of criticism. And the reason it is so is because those that have not gone into the future to get new information, to get new knowledge, would not understand. And you need to speak in the language they understand. And that is why I've settled for storytelling. Because our life as we live every day, we tell story, and we even write the story. So the only thing that will resonate well with us will be art of storytelling. Because when you tell a story to somebody that lives life in a storytelling formation, the person will be able to understand you quite all right. And that is why I'm actually using this art of storytelling with physics to tell you the deepest mystery of the universe. So basically, Einstein, when he proposed the fact that time reading is different based on space difference. Speed difference. People criticized it. When Nikola Tesla, when he used remote control to control a boat on a pond, people criticized him. They even went as far as saying that they went as far as saying that he was using demonic power. But now it has become a well-known knowledge, a well-adopted knowledge, because we know that the infrared laser can actually be projected to control TV. So we don't have issue with that again. Now, knowledge becomes knowledge after it has been understood. So you will need to let people understand quite all right before that new discovery can then be adopted and accepted as a knowledge. And so basically we're going to dive so deep into it in this video so that we can get that information. So now let's see the visual representation. So now in that video, in that story, I said that time swallowed energy. So let's say energy is being swallowed, and let's say at this present phase, energy is being swallowed, so it will go towards the evolutionary expansion. So it's more or less like we're going back in time. So now when energy got to this particular stage, the gravitational emergent power of time is being suspended around this place, and so the electromagnetic field of energy was able to go through and feel the suspension. And based on that, energy thought that he had known what he could use to overpower time. And then energy gets erupted out of that suspended point, which is the inflationary suspension point. So energy was traveling inversely to time, in the hope that when it gets to the present phase, now what energy did at this present phase was, when energy got to this present phase, energy suspended a particular amount of mass as an arbitrary suspension, so that time will not be able to locate it. And then here we have another real mass world of what is being imagined, and then we now have another arbitrary suspension. Now energy used this arbitrary suspension to keep time away from itself. Now energy now got outside of this time energy wave constraint, which is this region. And when you have electron in a negative energy state, it means that electron emits energy infinitely. So that is the point where you have energy living as infinite entity again, believing that it has won over, believing that it has won time. But there is something about time. Time has nature of wisdom. And from what I've said already, I know you would know that wisdom is the king. Wisdom is the king, followed by knowledge. Then understanding that was at par with time at initial stage now became the last. I will still shed more light on that for you to understand. So now let's get to these time energy wave field interactions. Now we have electromagnetic field relative to gravitational field. When after time has swallowed energy, the gravitational field gets suspended here, but electromagnetic field filled this whole place. Now then energy erupted, and so we have electromagnetic field relative to gravitational field. When energy got to this point, energy made an arbitrary suspension here, then another arbitrary suspension to keep time trajectory away from itself. So energy is now in the negative energy state as